I had a lot of problems when I first began studying Zen. I didn't know the first thing about it, except what I read. And those were books that said this monk was walking along, got hit in the head, and he was immediately enlightened. I was wondering what kind of state could happen to you that's delightful or whatever. Each of us has an original voice or original mind, one we were born with. I don't remember what I was like in my original mind when I was 6 months old or a year old. Even the earliest memories, I don't know of how I felt about who I was or what I was. But when you come to Zen, you're asked to make a commitment to transcend everything by becoming everything. You're no longer localized in one body. Now, it took me 10 years before I felt I was anywhere near doing things correctly. A lot of that was handled by Robert Adams back then. And he was really my prime teacher. He was such a quiet man. And almost all of us that were there were restless and suffering from some sort of psychosis. But really, the payoff from from studying Zen is what I felt just a few moments ago, starting satsang. I used to have to do something to get into beneath the mind states. It was really hard to do meditation because so much is required of one. But today, when I was getting into satsang, and I arrived late, 1:45, but I slipped right into my before mind state with the greatest of ease. And I experienced myself as what Sun San could call the 0 point. just knowing and experiencing this level of existence as your own in the present is something quite remarkable. How many people can say that when they're meditating, their mind is not moving? And what does that feel like? In ordinary consciousness, let's say before meditation, you close your mind, close your eyes, and look at the wall or a photo. If you're an adept at meditation, we can dwell in this ground state for a long period of time. It is extremely blissful. So much so that I never want to leave this state. But when I do, the ordinary world pops back into my center. And I lose that gift of pre-conscious existence. But anyone after a few years of practicing, if you're sick of being mistreated by your own mind or the minds of other people who are trying to influence you, it's a way out. Now, my motivation was to be a Buddha by the time I was 29. I didn't make that one. So many teachers I've been to, so much bullshit have I heard. When teachers talk about mysterious forces or the unconscious mind or the primary nature of existence, I really don't know what they're talking about. What they say to me doesn't sound like what I experience. And what I experience is a vast emptiness that goes to the ends of the world, my world of being in this state. It's like an infinite magnification of my body. It's kind of explosive experience. It happens very suddenly. And then you're no longer in this world, but you're in a different world. A different world of quiet, safety, and the most fundamental states one can ever experience. I had meditated a lot the first few years, a real lot, tens of thousands of hours. And I wasn't getting anywhere because I wasn't falling off the edge and plopping into the mindless state. Even when I reached the fundamental state and could describe it, I couldn't say for sure that this is the final state. I don't think it is. Final state may occur in one who transits into death. From a silent meditation stance and watches the whole process. That's my little ghost. Big white cat. Now, the state that I experienced before I started talking was of unbelievable peace and rest. It was so strong. I couldn't leave watching it, experiencing it. But my training allowed me to speak about it. Hopefully, not ending and destroying it for you. In my mind, there's almost no way for anyone else to know what's going on in you. Or you could do that with emotions and happenings in the past, but not with that initial unalloyed escape into a vast emptiness that contains the universe and consumes my body. And I feel incredible peace and bliss. So I know how some teachers use that comparison of enlightened or bliss mind. But Zen isn't really meant to progress on the human scale. It's meant to take you backwards into your ancient past to your true sense of self, which means you can't get any deeper except by going unconscious. But if you follow that experience, it will take you into sleep eventually. And you really haven't learned how to integrate your heavenly bliss state with your human state. You have to give up any sort of rewards that we usually think of when we're human, of wealth, power, great marriage, great children, whatever it is, family life. Because we feel rejecting of continuing to precipitate or participate in that crappy excuse for a self that we first have and which grows with us. Nor can I even say that knowing this fundamental state helps me in any way. But after many years of dwelling in that bliss, that ecstasy, where I just feel lost in infinity, and at the same time begin to feel my fundamental state, my primary state, my private or my personal sense of self, which is not so much something ecstatic, but the state of stillness itself, stillness of the body, stillness of the mind, is an extraordinary experience to have. You are, or you can be, your own entertainment section. Who wants to go out and walk for 10 miles when you can sit and face a wall, go into meditation and find God with the bliss that that would entail, the elation that would entail? Nobody really knows what Ramana's mind state was like. I mean, he talked all around it. He quoted scriptures that he was taught by his students to explain who he was or what he was. But what is special about this state is the experience of nothingness. And in that nothingness, we find our origin, our true face, and along with it, unbelievable bliss. So that we don't want to leave this state. We want to persist until it leaves us. So once you've tasted this, nothing can prevent you from devoting your life to exploring the depths of your own life from the inside and very deeply into yourself. Now, most religions have a difficult task of trying to talk about themselves, what their self is. You're supposed to gather it by reading hundreds of enlightenment experiences over the ages, especially in Japanese and also Tibetan. But you should know that many of these teachers are truly enlightened and letting go. I know that Muktananda used to fly into rages, scream and shout. So where was his peace? It's when the human world begins to encroach on our fundamental experience of existence that we start worrying about our practice and how to focus and concentrate more. Well, that comes with experience. And it also comes with an ability to turn your consciousness around and aim it at yourself rather than the external world. Because when we first do that, it feels like we're going away into some emptiness. But then something seems to happen, at least to me. I don't know whether it's the same for other meditators, but the ones I've talked to haven't experienced the same thing. But for me, this fundamental state, this fundamental mind, when empty, becomes utter absolute truth because it doesn't depend on any physical appearance or any spiritual cues or anything outside of the experience itself. And your license then in your own mind to try to bring others to this experience of deeply penetrating your own consciousness to discover fundamental states. My browser has been captured by some sort of bug. I get constant advertisement pop up. Come with me and you'll fry in heaven. It's not really that painful. But constantly reducing your mental life from the borrowed life that your parents and civilization give you is a load way less traveled by anybody except by you. You already know many things about the world: nuclear weapons, starvation in the East, terrorist organizations. And I know that if the people there felt even a quarter of what I feel, they would stop doing it immediately and just dwell in the bliss state of realizing your fundamental beingness. Now, I'll try to explore a little, but there are no words for it. So I have to color wrap the package with provocative statements about the self. You're never going to find yourself by brute force meditation, where you sit 6, 8, 10 hours a day. There's something that has to have happened to you through the process of sitting meditation over time, where you become free. Freedom. Freedom from a life of misery. Freedom when one leg of yours is firmly placed in heaven and the other is in your regular everyday life. Doing meditation is not to learn something, but for you to be in a place where you recognize all those layers of consciousness, awareness, and experiences that separate you now from experience at ground state. People tend to prize their minds too much and what they know too much, and they judge people based on their education or the amount of money they have. In Zen, that's deadly. People that are deeply into Zen tend to be iconoclasts and off by themselves because they don't want to be distracted by sexual thoughts, by the energies of others, by endless questions, and also because they feel they have nothing to offer because there's nothing inside of them anymore, except when you look around, you feel a vastness in yourself, of yourself, and in yourself. And that this vast space must be the one they talk about. The world becomes transformed. It leaves being a human property with all the names and understanding that entails, to dropping everything about you and your past. Now meditation is just about sitting in yourself as you are, filled with bliss, happiness, and the deep knowledge that everything changes all the time, but what you have doesn't change. The feeling of the deepest state that we can experience as humans. It's empty. There are no interesting objects in it. It's vast, vast beyond belief of most people. And when they're in this state, that bliss permeates their entire being and wipes them clean for a day or so. And when that's occurred several thousand times, you can enter deep meditation whenever you want. It's always available to you because you know how to get there, what maneuvers you have to do. And I don't talk about my own because that was sort of my own and maybe very idiosyncratic and not helpful to other people who try to copy what I think are the major states of this emptiness. You read the stories of the Chinese and Japanese Buddhist monks, and they were very happy not to live a life in the world because life in the world contained almost devastating stuckness in the peculiarities of your own human existence. And until you can find those and transcend them by integrating them into yourself, which happens automatically during each meditation. Until you can do that, you're not even an advanced student. So, as boring as you may think it to be, practice meditation. But meditation without object, you don't concentrate on something or even nothing. You just loosen the mind and let it do whatever it wants until it wears itself out and starts showing you the wonders of your own existence. I know if everyone were enlightened in this way, there would be very little to do except take care of people on the most fundamental basis. The bliss of yourself is really heavy duty. It nails you to the wall, so to speak. It overwhelms you with pleasure. And still, you go on and on, living your ordinary life as best you can. But then again, there are some like Ramana and some like Robert who refuse that world, turning to life within your original self. For no more reason than to explore the depths of your enlightenment experiences, the depths of the bliss you feel, the depths of the universe you seem to be living in now rather than before, where there are no thoughts really. Few words might pop themselves up, but there's no continuous string to be followed. You become nothing. You're not an actor anymore. You exist in the world, but the world no longer exists in you. Are there any questions? The names are kind of small. I can't really read them, but Kim, is there a Kim here? Do you have a question? Why not?
I'm sorry I'm late. I followed the link on your website that was dead. It took me a while to figure out how to get here.
Why are you here?
I want to start coming. I think I'm ready for this now.
ready for it. For what
Yeah.
reason?
I'm tired of being me. I'm tired of my life.
Good. You know, when you're just starting out, there are lots of advantages. You have thousands of years of written experiences of people that have preceded you. But at the same time, in this time and place, that's kind of frowned. It's not baked into society anymore like it was 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago in the Far East. But it has brought me unadulterated bliss, a complete happiness, no dropping back into negativity and being an asshole. Because I don't pay that much attention to the world anymore. I mean, I watch television, the news shows, read some newspapers infrequently, and get my information from the internet. But the core state of your beingness is found by you when you turn around and look within. And you turn your world inside out. You have to think about how what you do affects others' opinion of you, but not so much aware that takes away from the originality of pursuing that path inwardly for a long time. There's such a power in the urgency that the primary state imbues you with once you find out how to get it and to hold it next to you or in you all the time until you don't have to do that practice anymore. It's just there. Raju, what do you experience now?
I was a little unwell, so was getting disturbed with some cough, but you could say it's a mantra, or it's a small cue to turn within, to say, I just say three things to start with: no problem, no desire, no expectation. Then there is that one that is saying that. It kind of zeroes in on that one. It's almost like you're alone in a desert.
Yes.
It is there. So that's the experience.
Isn't it a rare thing to experience that alone rather than mixed in with lots of other states? And that when you can feel it, that narrow, totally tied to yourself, the kind of ecstasy you'll experience, along with the world transcendence of finding out that your mind is both a trap and also the easiest way to get into enlightenment, using the mind, actually by destroying the mind.
It almost felt like on one side, that whatever small thing which is saying that felt liberated because now it has nothing to hold on to. But it also felt like it is the tether between the deeper, maybe the spirit versus the manifested world. I don't know, but that is where it is right now. It feels liberated, but it also feels like that's the tether, because for sure it feels like there is something deeper beyond that. Maybe the I thought or I sense.
It's not the I thought. It's much deeper than the I thought. It's the I without the thought of I, just resting in the experience of yourself. But your self experience has to change over the years. It's to get further and further away from what you were to becoming a pristine person without all of those obstacles you carry with you that hinder your living. Modern day living is quite difficult if you pay any attention to it. If you don't pay attention to it, it's pretty easy. However, in situations like that, you run into the problem of being able to work. And so many people that are into spirituality drop out because the pursuit of enlightenment becomes far more captivating and exciting that living in the world brings. Because you know you're doing something ultimate, like a warrior of the spirit, going through all these steps and practices to learn about various mind and pre-mind states and the different experiences they bring. Now, once you've experienced these experiences, a lot of times you'll cry for somebody that's in the midst of a lot of trouble, and you'll try to vindicate to them. This is not how it usually goes. There are those who you could spend years and years and years in spirituality, and it doesn't seem to take. Those are the people that really have a hard time with meditation. There's still a lot of ideas in their background. Tom, how are you doing? I can't hear you. Chris doesn't like to be called on because it brings him out of a deep state. So I'll call on him. Chris, what happens to you in meditation or in satsang?
Speaking, coming out of that meditation place and then coming up to speaking again is really hard. It's the speaking component is so far away from that place. Having to move, I think when I'm in the meditation, a deep meditation, I don't. It sounds cliche, but there's no. I have no body. There's no feeling, no attachment to my body. I have sensory experiences, like I can hear or feel, but it's not a body that feels them. It's just a direct experience. And one thing I've noticed lately is it's such a relaxed, non-body state that I sometimes don't swallow. I know it's a weird thing to say, but I choke because my body isn't functioning to some extent as it usually does. And that's something that shuts off for some reason as I stop swallowing and my mouth fills up with spit and I start coughing. Because at some point, my body, it reattaches to the awareness. My body reattaches to my awareness. But the feeling in the deep meditation is open. It's so hard to describe in words because it's not it doesn't feel like I said, a physical existence. It's so far removed and deep that I'll just say things like open, peaceful, quiet. But these words that I'm saying are not what I'm feeling during the experience. They're how I describe it after, when I'm talking to you, because you just asked. But during the experience, during the deep meditation, it's just a being, an ising. Things are happening, but I'm not thinking about them. They're just happening. When I say things are happening, I can hear you, I can feel things, like I said, my senses. But they're not me. they're things that just happen and they're experienced, but they just come and go. It feels to me, I guess the best words I'm coming up with at the moment is an awareness. It's just an awareness of things, but not being things. Very peaceful, open, calm, serene. I don't like to, for me, words like happiness and bliss sound too active. It's more like nothing into which things come. But the feeling I'm the feeling of the experience is not happy or anything. It's just being and isn't. It's hard. It's really hard to put into words, I think, but I'm trying. And then to come out of it, I heard you call my name. I wasn't going to say anything, but because of your preface, I said, all right. But it's a struggle. It took a lot of effort to come back into my body and to move my body, especially, and to move my mouth and connect it to my thoughts. That was really, really hard. And it's unpleasant to go from that peace and that quiet and that non-body to talking. Talking is a horrible experience sometimes because it's so far away from that nothingness.
Yes.
And you've mentioned that I like to write to you, and that is true because writing, I can express myself far easier. I can connect to that beingness state that I don't even like to call it beingness because I'm not even being. It's just I'm a
Original state.
It's some sort of aliveness, but it's not alive. And I find that I can type and write down these things much better than I can say them. Saying them is hard for me. Writing it is a lot easier because I feel like I'm still in enough contact with it to really blend the words in the experience. Whereas speaking, it just doesn't, it's much harder for me to speak about it than to write about it. Speaking is way, just way far away from it to me. It engages my mind and my body so much that experience is it's just so distant. And that's why I often don't like to speak, is it's just so far away from my experience. And writing is better for me, is easier for me. And okay. I think that's about it for now. Hope that helps.
Thank you. Just turn your attention around and try to look inside from a position of your two eyes, which are closed or half open. Have those two eyes turn around and reach the inner eye about an inch above the bridge of your nose and about an inch inside. When you can discover that and do that pretty well, the light that creates in terms of illuminating your own self from within begins to march downwards, affecting chakras along the way, where many people experience very long period of pain in their spine over their heart, the heart chakra. And it can take a decade to clear this. And you're so relaxed that if you try to teach now, the only thing you might be able to say is relax. Go inside and relax. Turn your attention around. Go downwards from your closed eyes and seeing your head from on the inside too. Now dropping down into your heart, chest area. Watching that too. We are all a mystery to our inner self. But when we can penetrate the head from this position and go downwards through the heart chakra, other chakras descending, you'll find out your whole world is increasingly lighted and the darkness dissipates. So you're sitting in a vast light emptiness, lighted emptiness, which is far more entertaining than the non-empty one. Just sit here, aware of yourself at whatever level you find. I think many of you have reached a rather deep level that can be said to even be beyond the mind because it's prior to mind. It's the deepest, earliest experiences of our own self. Keep it up. Come see me once a week or so. I might start doing Wednesday again. Also, in addition. Take care.